This is QTV Experience Home. Time now for the news, and here are the headlines. The ruling Patriotic Front and the opposition, UPND, have agreed to demilitarize their security wings in a bid to promote peaceful coexistence among their cadres. Zambia has the lowest birth registration in Africa at only 11.2%. The Foundation for Democratic Process, FODEP, has commended political parties participating in the Thursday by-elections for conducting peaceful campaigns. Here now is the news in detail. The ruling PF and opposition, UPND, have agreed to demilitarize their security wings in a bid to promote peace and unity among party cadres. The two political parties have further agreed to allow the councils run the markets and bus stations without any political interference. This was agreed after a meeting between the two political parties held at the PF Secretariat that lasted over 2 hours and 30 minutes. Reading the resolutions of the meeting to the media, PF Deputy Media Director Antonio Mwanza said the two parties have also agreed to form a steering committee that will look at ending political violence and promote peace and unity between them. Mr. Mwanza says it has further been agreed that all those arrested on trumped-up charges should be released as the two parties continue to foster peace and unity in the country. Details in the following report.
In order to consolidate the peace pact that the ruling PF and opposition UPND signed last week Friday, the opposition UPND took a first step of dialogue by visiting their counterparts at the PF Secretariat in Lusaka. The UPND was led by UPND Deputy Secretary General Patrick Muchereka, UPND Chairperson for Women Affairs Namakau Kawiku, UPND Spokesperson Charles Kakoma, and UPND Deputy Youth Chairperson Munji Abenzu, among other leaders. The PF, on the other hand, was beefed up by PF Youth Chairperson Stephen Kampyongo, who is also Home Affairs Minister, PF Deputy Media Director Antonio Mwanza, and PF Youth Leader Daniel Kalembe, among other national and provincial leaders. After 2 hours 30 minutes of holding a closed-door meeting at the PF Secretariat, the two political parties agreed on a number of issues, even as they foster peace and unity in the country. The PF Deputy Media Director read the resolutions that were arrived at by the two political parties.
It has also been agreed as a resolution that both political parties will carry out social and political activities to make sure that we bring our people together, and that these meetings shall be accelerated from the national level up to the world level, so that our leaders from both political parties from the world up to the national level can be on the same page. It has also been resolved that both political parties must discipline their youths to make sure that there is order and observance of the rule of law. It has also been resolved that there will be no deployment of cadres from one place to the other. If there's a by-election as it is in Chilanga, it has been resolved that youths from other parts which are not part of Chilanga will not be exported or imported into Chilanga. It has also been agreed as a resolution that there will be demilitarizing of our youths. We want to engage our youths in sensitizing them and educating them that their role as a youth is not simply to chant slogans and to lift weights and to be intimidating others, but that they have a very bigger role to play in ensuring that they provide the leadership that is required. So
earlier, before going into the cross-door meeting, PF Youth Chairperson Stephen Kampyongo said the party is committed to implement the peace pact that was signed between the two parties last week Friday.
Because we know that we have got only one country to go home, Zambia, and we should coexist as one people. So we are happy today to host our brothers and sisters here at our party secretariat.
And UPND Youth Deputy Chairperson Munji Abenzu said the party and the youths in particular have made it very clear that politics of political violence should not be practiced in this era.
We are one people. We are so grateful that you are hosting us in this manner, and we are brothers. Besides our different ideologies, at the end of the day, we are Zambians and we are brothers. We've got intermarriages. People have married our sisters, PF, UPND, so we should coexist.
Meanwhile, UPND Chairperson for Women Affairs Namakau Kawiku had this advice to the youths both from the PF and the UPND.
We are saying to your leadership, let's not use your fellow youths to fight their mothers, to beat their sisters, to beat their wives, and fight among themselves. You should educate them to sell the manifestos of their parties and the policies, so that tomorrow they take over from you.
In order to foster and consolidate what has started today, to dialogue between the two political parties, the ruling PF youths are next week expected at the UPND Secretariat to continue on their engagements. For QTV News, Albert Mpezeni in Lusaka.
Zambia has the lowest birth registration in Africa. UNICEF Chief of Child Protection, Kathleen Brunswick, says the country's birth registration stands at 11.2%, attributing the low registration to lack of centralized registration system. She notes that while legal provisions for birth registration in Zambia have been relatively strong, enforcement has been weak. Ms. Brunswick has since called for enhanced sensitization on birth registration through the media, and that awareness can be created among members of the public. She was speaking during the official opening of a media training workshop on birth registration in Chisamba.
Decentralized birth registration and certification, the time has come for the country to now focus on demand creation so that every child born within the boundaries of this country is registered and counted. As the saying goes, if you want children to count, first count the children. So today we are gathered here with a very important group of men and women who are key in the sensitization and awareness raising among communities on the need and importance of birth registration. The media. I am confident that after this interaction and the knowledge sharing taking place over the next few days, we will be able to gain an important ally in the dissemination of important information about birth registration.
Meanwhile, government has reaffirmed its commitment to enhancing birth and civil registration in the country by decentralizing the registration process. Registrar General in the Department of Registration, Passport and Citizenship, Matthew Nyirongo, says government further remains committed to ensuring that all births are recorded as soon as they occur. Mr. Nyirongo says this will work efficiently through close collaboration with the Ministry of Health.
This approach has made birth registration easier. My ministry is addressing challenges of having a centralized certification system through the implementation of Statutory Instrument number 44 of 2016. So far, 2 birth and death certificates printing centers are operational in Kabwe and in Ndola. This means that applications for birth and death certificates in the 2 provinces are serviced by the 2 centers, no longer have to be sent to Lusaka for processing. Ladies and gentlemen, to address the challenges of lack of awareness on the importance of civil registration generally and birth registration specifically,
The Anti-Water Apathy Project, AVAP, has warned that the peace pact signed between the ruling Patriotic Front and the opposition UPND does not guarantee the end of political violence. AVAP Executive Director Richo Mulwani says his organization does not believe that the PF and UPND are interested in holding peaceful elections. Mr. Mulwani says this is evidenced by the recorded pockets of violence in Lusaka, even after 2 parties have signed a peace to conduct peaceful elections and campaigns. In an interview with QTV News, Mr. Mulwani says this is a sign that political parties in Zambia are not ready to hold peaceful elections. Mr. Mulwani states that what is therefore needed is to empower institutions of democracy for them to effectively monitor activities of all political parties contesting the July by-elections. He has named the institutions as Zambia Police, the Electoral Commission of Zambia, the Drug Enforcement Commission, and the Anti-Corruption Commission, among others. And Center for Young Leaders in Africa Communications Director Gerard Chiluba says the PF and UPND Peace Accord will only work with a clear roadmap. Mr. Chiluba says the organization has since taken advantage of the peace accord signed by the 2 political parties to come up with a roadmap on how to completely eradicate political violence in the country.
We are not so sure whether the peace accord, which was signed by 2 political parties, is going to yield the intended results. Why are we saying so? We have seen a similar gesture of an interaction which happened prior to the 2016 elections, where all the presidents of political parties were meant to sign a peace agreement. But what did we see during the 2016 elections and after the elections? That activity did not influence the peace of this country. And that is why we are saying that signing that peace accord without a roadmap is a sheer waste of time. And as Center for Young Leaders in Africa, we have taken advantage of that activity to begin to draft a roadmap. Because when we talk of peace, we are not only talking about Lusaka, we are talking about all the 10 provinces that we have in our country. So we are drawing up a roadmap, which we hope that all the political parties are going to, to adhere and abide to it. And we also hope that the Electoral Commission of Zambia are also going to accommodate us so that we can share this activity and see and look at ways of implementation.
The Zambia Center for Inter-Party Dialogue, ZCID, says it expects a positive outcome from its decisive meeting with the church this week on chairing the presidential summit. ZCID spokesperson Jackson Silavwe says this follows what he has described as a good and warm meeting convened last week with the church. Mr. Silavwe says from the meeting held, there was an indication that the ZCID and the church are headed somewhere with regards to the chairing of the presidential summit of political party leaders. He has told QTV News that the ZCID and the church have since agreed not to make any further immediate statements in the media before the forthcoming meeting is held. Mr. Silavwe states that the forthcoming meeting will include key members of the church mother bodies and that missed last week. Foundation for Democratic Process FODEP Executive Director Mwenge Chimfwembe has commended political parties participating in this Thursday's by-elections for conducting peaceful campaigns so far. Mr. Chimfwembe has told Q News that while there have been some pockets of violence in some towns where by-elections will be held, the campaigns have generally been peaceful. He notes that Lusaka has been violence-free apart from incidents where campaign posters of rival parties have been defaced. Mr. Chimfwembe says FODEP is looking forward to peaceful by-elections, and Mr. Chimfwembe has commended the ruling Patriotic Front and the opposition United Party for National Development, UPND, for committing to ending political violence by signing a peace pact. He says his organization looks forward to seeing how this peace agreement will sustain the peaceful political environment.
We want to see how this peace agreement will sustain the peaceful environment. And also we want to see how their party loyalists will actually help to sustain and translate the peace agreement into tangible efforts of upholding the plurality of the vote. It's equally gratifying to see the vibrancy of the campaign. We have seen many players who have come up, like the UPPZ. We have seen young people equally standing on the same ticket of the UPPZ. We think that this is the way it should go. We have seen also a woman standing on the NDC ticket, and I think, you know, the difference that this election brings is what actually makes it most exciting, and a sign that Zambia's democracy, given a chance, can actually consolidate even beyond the expectations of most people. And so we expect that in these last days of campaigns, we expect the peaceful atmosphere to continue. We expect a flavor in the campaigns.
3,500 teachers from different schools in Zambia have benefited from the core skills and school leadership training under Phase 3 of the Connecting Classrooms program managed by the British Council. Phase 3 of the program, which ran from 2015 to 2018, has resulted in 84 school partnerships between the UK and Zambian schools. Speaking during the closing ceremony of the Connecting Classrooms Phase 3 program in Lusaka, British Deputy High Commissioner to Zambia, Andrew Hamilton, said the program has given an opportunity to over 42,000 pupils to engage in international collaboration activities. More in this report.
Even in a world where most children are still learning basic skills, critical thinking and problem solving can and should be taught. Over the last few years, research and evidence has shown that a majority of education systems around the world are not equipping young people with the skills they need in this rapidly changing environment. And the Zambian situation is no different. It is against this background that the British Council has embarked on a global phase program of connecting classrooms designed to help young people develop the knowledge, skills, and values to live and become globally aware in the 21st century. The global program has seen the UK government contribute £17 million to support partnerships between schools in the UK and developing countries like Zambia. The third phase of the program in Zambia, which started in 2015, with the aim of addressing the gap in global skills and building the capacity of teachers to integrate a range of core skills into the teaching of the curriculum, has since come to an end. The program has seen 3,500 head teachers and teachers from different schools in Zambia benefit, as disclosed by British Deputy High Commissioner to Zambia, Andrew Hamilton, during the closing ceremony.
That's resulted in 84 school partnerships between schools in the UK and Zambia, which gives opportunities to over 40,000 pupils. That's engaging in international collaboration activities. And that's a fantastic achievement. I'm proud to have been playing a very small part in that. When I was back in the UK recently, I went to see my grandfather. He's 94, and he's the oldest member of our family. I discussed the programme with him because he lives in a part of Wales which is actually linked to the school here. And he probably assumed that learning and sharing ideas was basically a one-way street. Sort of old thinking came to the fore. So best practice ideas being shared with British teachers to Zambian teachers.
The implementation of the program was made possible through other cooperating partners, and Highland High School head teacher had this to share on behalf of the head teachers who benefited from it. The program also gave an...
I'm Margaret Shalala. I'm head teacher at Highland Secondary School, which is situated in Kabarana compound there in Chipata area, Chipata compound area.
Okay, and how have you benefited from this program?
We've benefited quite a lot because the leadership skills that we've acquired, we are now embedding them in our schools, where we make sure that we bring in on board as team players, and we also involve the learners as we prepare them to become the leaders of the future.
We'll continue with schools. As we speak, we've just managed to finish off the hub in Chipata, which is in collaboration with the British Council. Besides that, we're already doing our feasibility studies on schools. I can't say specifically which schools now because we have to collaborate with the Ministry of Education in identifying which schools we're going to support.
The program also gave an opportunity to over 42,000 pupils to engage in international collaboration activities, and pupils from Lotus School who are part of the beneficiaries shared their experience through this poem.
On my right the rich, and on my left those in poverty. Poverty explains why there is illiteracy. Poverty is purely man-made, so it has to be eradicated from its roots, as the government provides education in all parts of our beautiful nation. For this is the only way to improving illiteracy and eradicate poverty.
Parents and guardians, send your children to school. Children, go to school and learn. Beautiful people of Zambia, let's hold our hands and eradicate poverty by working hard and productive.
United we stand, divided we fall.
We are the ones, we are the children. We are the ones to make a better day, so let's start giving. And there's a choice to make it. We'll save in our own lives. It's true, we'll make a better day, just you and me. Oh, we are the ones.
Nakaonga reporting for Q News in Lusaka.
Government has reiterated the importance of the church having a sound and well-cultivated leadership. Minister of Religious Affairs and National Guidance, Godfrida Sumaili, says the church is the salt and the light of the world. Reverend Sumaili says government is keen to partner with the church on matters of common good. She states that government believes that the church is focused on implementing interventions to restore human dignity and improving the well-being of the people. Reverend Sumaili was speaking in Lusaka when she opened a 3-day conference on international leadership organized by Living Water International and the Evangelical Fellowship of Zambia, EFSAID.
Therefore, it is a joy to see church leaders gather together for a spiritual conference like this one, which will enhance the work of God and improve the impact on the lives of people in our respective countries. The government truly appreciates the work of the church. I would like to acknowledge and thank the organizers and sponsors for their time and efforts in organizing this International Leadership Conference that is being hosted in our country in these 3 days. Special commendation go to Evangelical Fellowship of Zambia in helping to put this big event together. I wish to thank the sponsors for bringing together leaders from a cross-section of society.
Speaking earlier, Living Water International Chief Executive Officer Michael Mantel said the conference, which is being held under the theme The Genius of One, is meant to strengthen the ministry of the church in Zambia. Dr. Mantel says the conference has been internationally designed to enlarge the circles of the church dialogue in Zambia. And a Crossing Church-led pastor, Greg Hodder, has assured participants at the conference that they will, in the next 3 days, learn how Christians ought to be one. Pastor Hodder says the conference will also strengthen marriages and heal broken relationships.
Now, you're going to certainly love this conference because it'll strengthen your ministries and it will improve our lives. But you will be transformed by the relationships we build. This year's conference was intentionally designed to enlarge the circles of our Christian dialogue in these 4 ways. The first is we're hosting this conference in the great country of Zambia. I've had the pleasure of visiting Zambia maybe 20 times over the last 25 years. I love this country.
I would suggest to you that this will not only change our churches, it will strengthen our marriages. It will heal broken relationships. It will answer the ache and the longing of a watching world that so badly needs to see what it means to love and honor and serve one another. And through it all, the great name of Jesus will be proclaimed in these coming days. Our dream is not only for one Zambia. Our dream is not even only for one Africa. Our dream is for one church, the followers of Jesus Christ. We who have been redeemed.
Patriots for Economic Progress PEP President Sean Tembo has called upon the National Prosecution Authority to appeal to the High Court in a case in which the Southern Province PF Publicity Secretary Trimo Mwenda was acquitted of 2 counts of indecent assault of his 20-year-old daughter by the Lusaka Magistrate Court. Mr. Tembo says there is no doubt that the judgment by the Magistrate Court represents the face of miscarriage of justice in the nation, especially against girl child, and must not be allowed to stand. He says his party has critically studied the recent judgment by the High Court, by the court, and has no doubt that the lower court erred and misdirected itself, given that there was ample collaborative evidence adduced before court that the accused committed the offences he had been charged with. Mr. Tembo says he is shocked that the court saw it fit to acquit the accused without even putting him on his defense.
As Patriots for Economic Progress, we have noted with regret the recent decision by the Lusaka Magistrates Court to acquit the Southern Province PF Publicity Secretary, Mr. Traimo Mwenda, of the charge of indecent assault of his 20-year-old daughter who is a university student. We believe that the Magistrates Court erred and misdirected herself in this particular matter, because after perusal of the court record, we noted that in our view there was ample evidence which was corroborated, which basically supported the charge that was raised against Mr. Traimo Mwenda. Our position is basically that we would like to call upon the National Prosecutions Authority to appeal this particular matter to the High Court. If the National Prosecutions Authority decides not to appeal this matter due to political reasons, given that Mr. Traimo Mwenda is a senior PF official, then we are going to be left with no option but to consider private prosecution of this matter by engaging the complainant so that we can appeal this matter and the complainant can receive justice in this matter, because this particular judgment is actually a mockery to the fight for the rights of the girl child in this country, and if we don't do something, posterity will judge us harshly.
Copperbelt Provincial Education Officer Felix Ngoma has noted that education can be one of the major solutions to addressing the challenges of mushrooming gangs. Mr. Ngoma says most of the youths who become members of the gangs are those that have dropped out of school and end up involving themselves in gang activities. He says education could help change the mindset of youths and save them from involving themselves in gang or criminal activities. Mr. Ngoma has since disclosed that the District Education Board secretaries on the Copperbelt have embarked on education programs in markets and communities to give an opportunity to even adults who dropped out of school so that they can appreciate education and have an opportunity to learn one or two things. He has since called on parents and guardians to encourage young people to attain education to prevent them from becoming gang members.
Like as we all know, the issue of gangs is not a one-person problem. It's a multifaceted problem which concerns the entire social structure, whether it's parents and other economic activities and so on. So I think the parents need to be involved. I think they are the number one people to deal with these issues, because normally those children perhaps live with them and so on and so on. So being available to your children, giving them counsel, and also opening their eyes to opportunities that are there within the government system. You know, we have social welfare, we have community development, we have Ministry of Education, to try and place them. We have NGOs that are working to provide opportunities for young people to try. It's not a lost cause. The opportunities are there, but I think it begins with the parents identifying the challenges their children are facing and linking them up to these opportunities that the government system provides for the children to develop well. Like I said,
the Zambia National Students' Unions, an umbrella body for all students' unions in Zambia, says it sympathizes with students from Lusaka, Apex and Cavendish universities for the inconvenience arising from the withdrawal of their institutions' licenses by the Health Practitioners Council of Zambia and the continued impasse in resolving the issue. ZANASU Secretary General Isaac Mwanza says the situation is deeply regrettable and calls for timely resolution of the problem so that students are not inconvenienced by any further. Mr. Mwanza says ZANASU cannot allow institutions of higher learning to employ half-baked lecturers and entrust the education of Zambian students into their hands. He says this has the potential to contribute to the grooming of half-baked and less skilled graduates. Mr. Mwanza is calling on the Minister of Higher Education, Professor Nkanduluo, to see to it that her ministry intensifies the inspection of all universities and colleges in order to ensure that competent lecturers are employed and adequate facilities provided for use by students. Kabwe Central Member of Parliament Tutu Angulube has commended President Edgar Lungu for calling on the Food Reserve Agency FRA to revise its maize purchasing price. Mr. Angulube says the farmers in his constituency have welcomed the President's intervention with happiness. He states that President Lungu should be commended for listening to the cry of the farmers. Mr. Angulube has told QTV News that most farmers whom he has spoken to felt the 65 kwacha buying price announced by the FRA was very low. He says this call to the farmers in his constituency is that they sell their maize to the FRA.
Farmers cried that the maize price was too low. It's important for people to note that farmers countrywide are actually celebrating this good news from the president. And we also want to urge all the farmers to now find time and put their maize together and sell their maize to FRA. We are aware that our people countrywide are being exploited. They are selling maize below 65. But now government has said the price should be up to somewhere above 65. We think that is a good deal for the farmers, and I think, speaking on behalf of the farmers of Cabo Central constituency, we want to salute the president and congratulate him for taking up such a step that very few presidents have actually taken in the past. Farmers.
The Basic Education Teachers Union of Zambia, BETUS, has earmarked the recruitment of 120 motorbikes to enhance access and the presence of its leadership in all areas, especially in the hard-to-reach areas where motor vehicles cannot go due to the challenge of poor roads. Speaking at a media briefing in Lusaka, BETUS Secretary General Jeffrey Simuntala says the project is part of the union's resolution from its last quadrennial conference held in Livingstone. Mr. Simuntala says BETUS wants its leadership to move quickly and resolve challenges that teacher members may be faced with in areas where motor vehicles cannot reach. He says it is his union's resolve to represent members effectively. Mr. Simuntala says the union therefore hopes that the local leadership will use the motorbikes effectively to the benefit of union members.
You know, we have so many problems that our members are facing. So we intended as a union that we procure motorbikes to ease their mobility. Initially, you agree with me that we procure all 10 vehicles for all the 10 provinces. Now, after that, we said we also needed to empower the districts, especially the rural districts, like districts from northern, Muchinga, western and northwestern and southern province. So eventually now we'll definitely even go flat out to empower even the branches, so that in terms of sorting out the problems for our teachers in the rural areas is made a little bit easier.
Barclays Bank Zambia has pumped in 350,000 kwacha in this year's Young Information and Communication Technology ICT Innovation Program. This is a combination of sponsorship agreements signed between Barclays Bank and the Zambia Information and Communications Technology Authority, ZICTA, aimed at scaling up the level of support provided to the enlisted innovators of the program, which is aimed at offering technical and business development support services to ICT innovators as well as emerging entrepreneurs. Speaking during the signing ceremony, Barclays Bank Managing Director Ms. Ngamelu says the program is in tandem with the bank's main pillar to be a digitally led bank.
So
Ms. Melu notes that the move will allow the bank to provide youths with internship programs under its partnership with ZICTA.
So we agree that this is a journey. We are starting with them, and for this year we will sponsor them with 350,000 kwacha, and we believe with the existing platform that they already have, this will at least sponsor up to 60 youth across the country. So these are youth that are just thinking of the businesses, and these are youth that are already also existing in terms of the businesses, to say how do we take them to the next level. I think the other thing that we are committing is that we will provide the youth with a number of internships in the bank, in our IT department, where they will be able to come in the bank and really use that experience to say this is already an existing strong bank and this is the innovation that we have. How do we marry the two for us to be able to provide innovative service to our clients? So that's really what we are doing today, is to really work on this partnership between Barclays and ZICTA, put 350,000 there, and also be able to really focus on the youth. Again, this is under our existing umbrella of shared growth, of really focusing on the youth and entrepreneurship. How do we work with the youth to allow them to support our existing businesses, the SME business, the corporate business, the agriculture business? We are looking for them to come up with innovative ideas that will really enhance our existing SME business. So this is not just innovation for the youth alone, but we're going to marry it to the rest of the businesses that we already have. And it's not just us, as Barclays, but this is something that they can use themselves and work with whichever partner that they choose to. And for us, it's not about how we get out of this as a bank, but it's how do we empower the youth? How do we empower them to get to that next level? So that's really what the partnership is all about.
And ZICTA Director General Patrick Mutimushi says the agency has provided up to 100,000 kwacha worth of investment for up to 5 innovations that will be shortlisted on the program. Mr. Mutimushi says the 2018 ICT Innovation Program will, among other things, provide technology and that's technical and business development support services to up to 60 Zambian ICT-related innovators aged between 18 and 55 years. He adds that the number of beneficiaries on the program in 2018 will consequently increase threefold following its partnership with Barclays Bank of Zambia. Mr. Mutimushi says the program is anchored on the 2030 vision.
ZICTA will also contribute to leverage on its engagement with a number of successful entrepreneurs and business entities to provide coaching and mentorship for innovators on the program. We will also rely on our public sector and private sector partners that have been working with us since the inception of the program. Several of the innovations that were part of our program in the last 2 cycles have not only become commercially viable enterprises, but also win various international accolades and awards. All these achievements would not have been realized without the support of our various partners and stakeholders. It is for this reason that I would like to take this opportunity to thank the various institutions from the public and private sectors respectively, as well as academia that have continued to collaborate with us on the program. Specifically, I would like to make special acknowledgement for the Ministry special acknowledgement of the Ministry of Transport and Communication, the University of Zambia, ZICAS University, the National Technology and Business Council, Zambia Development Agency, Bongo Hive Technology Hub, Jacaranda Hub, to mention a few, for their continued support towards the program.
The Department of Arts and Culture in the Ministry of Tourism and Arts says it has made significant progress in preparations for the 2018 Pamozi Carnival, which will be held in Lusaka. Chief Cultural Officer Joseph Mwansa says the event, which brings various cultural groups together from all the provinces to celebrate the country's cultural heritage, is aimed at promoting unity and oneness through food, music and cultural dances. Mr. Mwansa says there is need for all stakeholders to support this event as it is aimed at promoting Zambia's cultural heritage through various activities.
We are also expected to also view various handicrafts products from all the 10 provinces, also traditional foods, and then also some of the best dance repertoires from all the 10 provinces of Zambia. I also wish to take this opportunity also to thank Manzi Valley, which has come on board. This given us cases of water to go towards the hosting of the Pamozi Carnival. Also our ACC, have also come on board, and then also our ZESCO, which has also come on board in sponsoring one of the cultural groups. We wait to hear from other sponsors to come on board. This Pamozi Carnival is a national event.
And a creative artist, Richard Mwanza, says it is inspiring that the nation will host the 4th edition of the Pamozi Carnival, which is an important event in promoting the country's culture.
So I would like to encourage other sponsors other than just the Anti-Corruption Commission that has been mentioned, Zambia Electricity Supply Corporation, the Manzi Valley, and of course the government itself, QTV, which has come on board and help us fail this idea. It's very, very important that this Pamosi indeed must be owned by us Zambians, other than it being owned by foreigners. Because if you've seen other carnivals elsewhere, there is more attendance of the foreigners other than the locals. But we want it to be understood that the Pamosi Carnival is like the culmination of Kuomboka, Mtomboko, Mtwara, all the traditional ceremonies of this country, whether in their quarterway or halfway, being exhibited finally from Woodlands Primary School as they come into Chilimburu, into Cairo Road Garden, showcasing that which we appreciate most.
That would do it for the news, but before we go, here's a recap of stories in the headlines. The ruling Patriotic Front and the United and the opposition added the ruling Patriotic Front and the opposition UPND have agreed to demilitarize their security wings in a bid to promote peaceful coexistence among their cadres. Zambia has the lowest birth registration in Africa at only 11.2%. The Foundation for Democratic Process, FODEP, has commended political parties participating in this Thursday's by-election for conducting peaceful campaigns. That's it for the news. Bye-bye. God bless.